There's something really important that I want to discuss with you in this video, and it might come off sounding a little bit negative right up front, but believe me when I say that I am nothing but positive and absolutely think that New World has every chance at building itself back up into an MMORPG, most likely worthy of MMORPG fans' time. But that in and of itself is its own topic, and maybe we'll explore how that comes about in future videos. But the TLDR, and I'm not dunking on anybody, I just want to be very clear, but I'm seeing a numerous amount of comments, I guess putting a lot of hope on the July update. And believe me when I say the July update is really good and the game keeps getting better. But the thought that just keeps popping up in the back of my head, the concern that I have, and that's what I want to focus this video on, is that I think a lot of people are putting maybe too many eggs in the July basket. The TLDR of my MMO history and analysis tends to tell me that expansions are a great way for marketing and re-inviting players back in and hype, and then essentially have a natural drop-off. And we continue to see this in games that really excel at this. And this is usually between a 1 to 2 year cycle, where ESO and Destiny, they tend to do a yearly cycle, and games like Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, etc. tend to have an every 2 year cycle. And when you go look at the numbers and how the ebbs and flows of players and enjoying certain content, they ebb and flow. Final Fantasy XIV as a really heavily example, as something that I play regularly and put probably too many hours into, if we're going to be honest, comes into the fact that prior to the expansion and through the expansion is its highest time the player base is there, and then everything else after that you kind of see people dip in and out, and it's a very natural process. But I'm going to focus in on one comment here. I'm going to highlight this again, a beautiful comment, not trying to bemoan them at all, but this should summarize exactly what I'm seeing across the board in my comment section and on Reddit, etc. And it's my inherent wish to infuse this knowledge into people, because I fear that when July comes, and we will see people play, but we will also see people leave. And I don't know yet if July is actually going to have the numbers go into the green. I suspect that might be more the September update along the Greatsword and the expansion of the zone. That's essentially kind of where I think is going to be the biggest kind of turnaround and excitement build up. But again, ebbs and flows of a player base. But I am concerned that I feel like a lot of people are putting their hopes into July in such a way that it's not going to be like the main patch, the one patch to bring them all back, because that's gonna be an exercise of trust, an exercise of time. And that's a long way of saying it. I'm sorry that we've taken this long to get to the core of the video, but here we are. Chatteron says, hopefully the next update starts to bring players back. I think it's going to be good with some of its uniqueness that will set New World apart a bit, which it desperately needs, but I'm thinking the instance tech for the wars and the sign they are close to actually getting cross-realm play, which they said that they would drop in as soon as it was ready. But I'm not a developer, so it's just a logical guess. That would help a lot with a lot of the issues the game is actually having with population. The video is nice, and I certainly point anyone interested in New World this way for a good overview of what's changed. And so thank you so much for that comment. And there's kind of two parts to this. If you guys have been following the content, in July, the July update, they're going to be able to instance the wars, so that way the main server, the main world, isn't going to be impacted by that. Anybody who's ever experienced the lag detected error, where you're just kind of waiting for a second, that actually tends to be somewhat related to the changes they've made with war overall. And I think essentially this is going to be really good for the game, the community, having a good open world experience and a good war experience. And Chatteron is correct in the assumption this is moving them forward to getting that cross realm. Now, we do not know where that is on the roadmap. That specifically is not on the roadmap. So ultimately, when we break it down, I would not yet put that soon. I hope that I am wrong. And it could be very well that this is the starting phases of it. I think things like OPR, things like the 3v3 arena, especially for the wide level ranges, are going to benefit heavily from being able to pull from a wider range, and not just on your server. This will also help benefit lower pop servers. There are individuals who specifically want to play on lower pop servers, and this would benefit them because then they're not going to be cut off from all of the quote-unquote contents that this game currently offers. Now, the other side of it is that I hope the next update will start to bring players back. I would actually say that every update brings players back, and every update also has players take a break. In fact, most of the players that I see leaving currently are all like at 1,000+ hours. This is obviously not the case for each and every individual when it comes down to that, but everybody's going to find their time where they dip in and dip out. Why I feel, and I'll continue to make the case for the expansion model, is that it ends up signaling a lot to the player base. Yes, they could go the No Man's Sky and update over update over update, but even with No Man's Sky, you gotta start to tie marketing dollars behind that. And there's a reason why even the MMO that you're playing right now, especially if you're on a break from New World, you've probably seen an advertisement for recently, or at least within the last couple of months. This is to help hold on to players. This is just marketing in terms of video games, which in and of itself is a weird landmine of a topic because of how like gamers perceive various things with the concept of earned media and obviously organic media and paid media. This would be an example. This video is an example of earned media. Somebody who is not getting paid to talk about New World, who just wants to freaking talk about this game. And you can also see how that's applied within TV shows. But marketing is still a absolutely critical aspect. And one of the unique things about New World and Amazon as a studio is they also have Twitch. And we've seen them bring in different forms of marketing. Sometimes the bigger paid streamer aspect of it, whether that is through, you know, somebody who's just like, hey, we're going to bring in this big name. And the one that comes to mind, I don't know if he's been paid, but Shroud would be my mind, the person who comes to mind in this case. But they have that aspect. They also have the drops aspect, where whenever there's an active drop, traditionally that's where I end up streaming New World as opposed to on YouTube. So that's something that has an impact on me. But when it comes down to it, like, and it's not really Chatteron who's saying like, oh my gosh, July's going to be so great, everybody's going to come back. But that's essentially kind of the theme where I'm seeing in other comments. That's where I think that those players and that mindset is setting itself up for disappointment. Namely because if you feel like that's going to be what happens, and it doesn't, most likely because that's just not how MMORPGs and the community focuses and functions, then you could end up being somebody who ends up leaving, where generally speaking, you're like, if you're enjoying the game, you're enjoying the game. But this is also kind of where I slightly pivot this topic into just a level of personal advice and communication. Like, I think it's very healthy to take breaks from the game. And if you're somebody who's just, like maybe you've done a lot that you've already wanted to do in the game and you're waiting for more, I would encourage you maybe take a break and actually check out some other games. I wouldn't encourage you to uninstall the game because there's lots of little things happening on and off, and maybe you want to hop in, like with us here on the first and second, where I know I'm going to be really focusing on doing that massive double XP weekend. And so there's a lot to love and to enjoy about the game. But essentially, like, my concern is that you end up hitting a point of burnout where your break isn't a couple of months or a couple of, or half a year, where you're like looking at it and coming back in 2 or 3 years and being like, oh. But at the same time, that could also be good for you too, because you could come back and all of a sudden it's like, look at all the content, look at all the structure, and look at all the things that are in place and rocking and rolling. I know there's a lot of negativity when it comes to New World in and of itself. I'm very familiar with it as randomly and just as a point of personal curiosity as we wrap up this discussion. Namely, it's that when people kind of go out of their way to be negative, and there's a level of humor, and there's also a level, I guess, of sadness for the individual in that case. Like, I don't know, if you're going to troll, it just seems like lazy trolling at this point to me. And yeah, if you're offended by that, maybe you need to go look in the mirror and kind of figure out why. Anyhow, I still think that there's a lot that the devs have. I think essentially what they are saying, and I don't know why I trust them. Trust is a function of earned, in this case, especially with games and MMOs. But I don't know. There's just something that's always felt here, some kind of love that I feel, and that's essentially kind of the point behind the videos that I've been making, especially recently as I've returned from vacation and then the random family emergency. I don't mean to make this video longer than it needs to be. I appreciate your time, and if you made it all the way here to this end of this video, sound off with with the feature that you're most excited about, whether it's announced or unannounced. I would love to absolutely know, maybe even explore that in a future video. Is it mounts? That's something that I see continue to pop up from time to time. I see swimming come up from time to time. For me, like, just to kind of set the bar on what I want, is I want post-level XP, and I want open world bonus XP on PvE enemy kills, meaning that the longer the enemy is alive, the more bonus XP it gives me, but that comes in tandem with a post XP leveling progression system. And yeah, I already probably have a problem in New World in terms of just like a health and playing the game too much for the situation in life that I am. But it is going to be how it is. So I just wanted to ask you guys that question. Sound off in the comments below if you feel like having that discussion. I'm very curious overall what your thoughts are, and hopefully maybe we'll have fun and we'll explore that in a future video. That's it for this video, guys. I send you on your way to hopefully another good and awesome video for your day and your feed. If there's any topic or anything you'd like me to explore, also comments are down below. Links are in the description if you want to support. And other than that, I thank you so much for all of your time, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with the clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.